The animal restaurant. Hello.
This is the female dungeon. This place is the female dungeon. Ah, I will throat. Say hi. This is the female dungeon, man. Scheiße. This is not good.
Alright, so we are in the female square plot here. So all the rooms you see on the ground floor here, they were dungeons for the 400 female souls. Now during that period, children were involved at the age of 12 years and above, because families were captured, and the children among them were also held captives in there. Before we have a look at the dungeons here, let's talk about this reservoir here. Please be careful with your phone when you come around here. Alright, so this is a water reservoir which can contain about 20,000 gallons of rainwater. Pipes were channeled to the rooftop. So the black pipe behind this pole is the original pipe, channeled up there whenever it rains. The water was collected here. This one will filter the water to the reservoir. They use the water to wash, cook, and do other domestic things. When the Dutch came in, due to issues of it being poisoned by the phosphate, they abandoned this reservoir and rather built 3 times 1 studios. Yes, were 60,000 gallons of rainwater. We have one at the main courtyard and extra 3 behind the castle. When the British took over, they tested the water and realized that the water was never poisoned. Let's have a look at the dungeon. Alright, so this dungeon here contains about 120 females. Let's have a look at the largest one here. This dungeon here contains about 150 females. They slept on this bare floor here, and they did everything on the floor. When you talk about their feeding, feces, urine, blood, vomit, everything was done here whilst they were sleeping in it. They spent about 2 months to 3 months in the dungeon, so buckets were kept at the corners for them to use. But during the 2nd month, they became weak to walk to the bucket, so they did everything on themselves whilst they were sleeping in it. And you know, as females too, every month they had their menstruation. They did everything on themselves without taking their bath. This particular room was poorly ventilated. The only source of ventilation came from the 2 windows we have here, where the baths are, and the hole there. Here was the main gate. But this hall is to a room that was called the magazine. In that room, the soldiers kept their ammunitions and other explosives. So whenever there was leakage, the toxic fumes, they came straight here, contaminated the air, and killed a lot of the females in the shop. So with the 150, not everyone made it after the month they spent in the dungeons. And during that period too, the Europeans referred to the coastal areas of West Africa as the white man's grave. because malaria and yellow fever were killing them a lot. They found the place to be a punishment for them. So anytime they want to satisfy their sexual desires, I mean the governors, the soldiers, and the merchants, they selected from the females to be sexually abused. Let's go, let me show you something.
I have a question. How are they feeling?
Alright, so this is a cannonball, which weighs about 25 kg. Chains or shackles were attached to it to put on their legs or hands. They stood here for 24 hours with no food, no water, without rain or shine. So as they stood here, they served as a deterrent to the rest of the females in the dungeon. Let's have a look at this dungeon here.
Dobra. Yeah, no problem.
I don't like to be on your picture all the time.
No, you're not in.
Okay.
You're not in. No.
When the Dutch came, they were Protestants, so they abandoned the Catholic Church that the Portuguese built and rather had theirs on top of this dungeon. And most of the materials that were used to build the castle were imported. So the reddish bricks we have here were from the Portuguese, and the yellowish ones on the walls were from the Dutch. They used the bricks to balance their ships when they came in here, but on their way back, they used the slaves to do the balancing based on the way they were packed in the ships. The cloths and chains you see here, they are not original. In 2016, students came in here to act and have a feel of what happened here, called the reenactment. So they used the cloth to cover themselves up, chains on their legs and hands. They slept here for 3 days. So they used this filled with kerosene to serve as light because the place looked dark during the night. And at the canal here too, these are the original iron bars used for the windows. But because they are rusted, we have them replaced by the wooden bars.
It's a big hole there.
Yeah.
Oh, come inside. Nobody's supposed to. Nina, because some of them do her. You feel that shit?
So this is not the original way of passing.
Okay, so before they were shared in the dungeons, after the auction, they were branded. So this room right here was the branding room. Metals were put in fire, and the metals had initials on it, bearing the company's or the merchant's name. They put that in fire to brand either their chest or back for identification. And it is believed that a lot of them died from the shock. So the males were the ones receiving the branding, while the females and the children were wearing tags on their neck. And bear in mind, those things are mostly done on animals.
Screw it.
Alright, let's have a look at the room. So I'm going to put on your phone just to talk everybody inside. And there's a step down here. Please wash your way and come in. We are in the intercession room because the survived females use this direction here to the room of no return, whilst the males used where we came from. They met up, but how sure are you that the person you know here, you are going to survive with him or her? So all hopes were lost when they got to the room of no return. And as you can see, the gate is shut. So you bend properly, you take 4 to 5 steps before you come up to prevent accidents.
Very good. This is terrible. Gosh. Yeah. See what this guy did. Man, it's crazy.
Alright, welcome to the room of no return. It's not coming. Okay, so you're in the room of no return, and the gate here was the gate of no return. During the trading of the golds and ivories, the Europeans used the same site, but their gate was wider to this length. But when they started the slave trading, they narrowed it to this for easy counting of the slaves and controlling the lives of the slaves. Initially, the sea was very close to the castle here, but due to the climate change, that's why we see it at the far end. So just like the way we can see some canoes parked there, they came very close to the castle with the help of a ladder to descend them in it, whilst they were still in the shackles or the chains attached to each other. They packed them in the ships and took them to the Caribbean countries, the Americans, and some too were taken to Europe to work on their plantations and mines. We talk about the tobacco plantations, the sugarcane, cotton, coffee, dye, and the others. And because of the way they were treated in the ships, a lot of them died. The females were raped, some even died in the act. They were tortured, beaten. Those that refused to eat, they used tools to chisel their teeth in order to create space in there. And they were affected by diseases. And those that were hit by them, whether alive or dead, they just took their bodies, threw them into the sea. So few people survived in their ships when they got to where they were going. When they got there too, no rest, working day in and day out, torturing them, beating them as they started, to the point that a lot of them could not stand the way they were treated. So there were runaway slaves among them that we refer to them as the Maroons. They hid in mountains, cave trees for protection, and they can be found in Brazil, Jamaica, Mexico, Suriname, and other places. Because of famine, some came back to steal from their masters, and those that were caught in the act, they lost their tools to serve as a deterrent to the rest of the slaves. Some came together, trained themselves, and fought against the Europeans. So there were a lot of Maroon wars that happened on the side of the Africans that were taken there from the 1690s to the 1700s. Through a revolution, Haiti gained independence in 1804. That is why in 1807 the British made that attempt to abolish the slave trading. But as I said earlier, it was just a mere paperwork thing that they did. And because whatever that they did were backed by insurance, they really maltreated them, because no matter what happened, they are going back for their money. So everything came to an end. Then what happened next? Colonization came to the picture after the Berlin Conference. So these streets here, they are from those in the diaspora. They believe that those that died here, their souls are still here. And as a way of showing respect for their souls to rest in peace. And some descendants too, they make prayers for their ancestors. So that's why we have the alcohol bottles and the calabash here. You can take your pictures, then we go out.
Hello. So when the ship arrived, all the enslavement who suffered in the main country used this passage to get into the room of what? No return. You can see a small door on my right. This room that we're seeing, which is the when you see the approach for catering and identification for the God into the room for return.
Christopher Columbus, he said he discovered America and Jamaica. He's a liar. He's a big liar, man. Bumbo class. We discover America.
He was going to India and he lost his way and got to an unknown land. Then he said,
But that's how it is, you know. These guys, they fix things up.
What's the name of the priest who you talk about?
There were two, Bartolome de las Casas and Manuel something. There were two.
Okay.
And in history, they keep on praising him because of how the things he did in Christianity in terms of spreading.
It's nothing.
So originally you're saying
To me, it's nothing.
was African and the U-turn.
Tell you. All these people who created all this bullshit, to me, they are nothing. They are zero. Bumbo class.
Make it strong. But
What year is that again?
Alright, so here in the main courtyard, all the rooms you see on the ground floor here, they were dungeons for the 600 male slaves. The first floor were occupied by soldiers, merchants, missionaries, and physicians. The second floor there was the deputy governor's apartment, and the last floor was the governor's apartment. The slanted wall here, there's another one down there. They are called buttresses, fixed by the Dutch to strengthen the walls of the castle from collapsing. And the metals on it were fixed by the British. After the Second World War in 1914, they used the place to serve as a police training center. So the policemen were climbing it up and down to exercise their manners. And this building right here was the Portuguese church. The first Catholic church to be built in Ghana, but when the Dutch took over, they had years on top of one of the three military dungeons. So they divided it into two. The upper part of it was used to serve as a junior soldier mess, a place where they were eating and drinking. The down part, an auctioning hall where they were buying and selling slaves. When the British took over, they used the structure here as classrooms for the policemen, and when Ghana took over, the place is a museum. Now we are going to compare the two cells we have there. Let's get closer to it and explain more.
Yeah, so we know it's so
died 12 months, same year when he was born again. This is a tribute written by a priest, tribute to the governor. What the priest is saying is that when this governor was alive, he was very good.
Alright, so these two cells here, the one with the metal gate was an European cell for European soldiers. The one with the palm and the crossbone was a condemned cell for the Middle Africans. Now we are going to compare the two by going inside, then I'll tell you extra things that happened. Go ahead. Are you coming in? No, me not. Are you coming in? European cell because life here was so boring for some of the European soldiers, because among them were criminals, ex-convicts, and mercenaries. So the kind of life that they predicted to have was totally different from what they experienced when they came in here. So some sneaked out without permission. They got themselves drunk, came back, and were misbehaving. And you know, every institution has rules and regulation. So they punished them by keeping them here, but they spent just some few hours here. They were given food and water, 2 windows for ventilation. Let's compare the cell with the condemned cell. Please come with me.
Oh, it's right next to it.
What do you think?
This is condenser, man. Shitty. Be fun. Let's go in the condenser. Just look in here, smooth.
Alright, so I'll meet you guys again on this world, okay? Bye-bye. Alright, so condemned cell for the Africans who rebelled against the Europeans. Although they were mixed up from different tribes, but they had ways and means to communicate with themselves in order to rebel or fight with the Europeans. So the leaders among them were captured. They locked them up here, starved to death. So no one came in here and went out alive. It was just their bodies that they took them